Hi, Shayla. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. So last time we had our initial meeting and we just really assessed your situation and what's going on, and you had like a major stress in your life was a new job position and which required you to move. So do you want to talk about that some more?
Yeah, so I originally started working in Salt Lake because I was living down there. And I was working in a position where I went into people's homes to help families in need. But now I've switched up here because we moved up here to Layton. And now I work with families who have adopted a child and are struggling to care for that child. But I think that there are a few hard things for me. One, changing offices. Two, I changed entire regions. So anyone that I knew down there, like I don't know anyone up here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been a big adjustment. As well as this position is very different from my last one. And in a lot of ways, I feel very detached from my work. And I don't feel like I'm helping people as much as I did in my other position.
So it's kind of like basically a brand new job, even though you're with the same, like you're still with DCFS, right? Like
Right.
It's a whole new title and everything.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, it feels like I'm a new employee again because I'm doing something completely different.
And you have to like get to know everyone in the office and get to know kind of how things work in this different region.
Right.
And
Yeah, and even though like our offices have the same policies and stuff, like the regions are run completely differently. So whereas in Salt Lake, I could be really flexible in my schedule and come and go as I please and work from home. Like in this region, it's very much an 8 to 5, and you don't work from home at all. And so it's been a big adjustment.
So you mentioned that you feel like you're not helping as much. Do you think that's because it was more like interpersonal communication with your last position?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And it's more like long-term work. So I'm like in the home multiple times a month visiting with these families, and I get to know them and have a relationship with them. Whereas like in this position, it's a lot of someone calls me because they're in the middle of a crisis. I talk to them once and then they're like, cool, great. And it's also a lot less organization. Like I don't get to build relationships with a lot of these people because there are just so many people to work with. Whereas I was assigned specific families and was able to really create a relationship with them. And I feel like a lot of this position is more based on like financially supporting people as well. And that wasn't a big aspect of my position before. And so I feel like a lot of times when people call me, it's just to ask about getting more money. And so I feel more like a banker than a social worker.
And a lot of it's on the phone.
Right.
Yeah.
Not a lot of face-to-face stuff going on.
So you might have like a call and you help someone out, but you don't really see the result of that, and you don't really know exactly who you're helping or...
Yeah, and I don't know if there's any follow-through. Like with my in-home cases, we came up with a plan of exactly what we're going to accomplish. Step by step, make sure that they're actually following through. Whereas this one, I give them ideas, and sometimes they're just like, and do nothing about it. And then sometimes I hear from them a few months later, and they're like, it didn't work. I'm like, oh, well, surprise. Like, I'm hearing back from you again. Like, who are you again? Because like, I've talked to so many people that I've talked to people straight who I've talked to.
But do you still see the value in your role? Like, or is that something you're still struggling with?
A little bit of both. I think that when families are open to like feedback and intervention and stuff like that, like then I feel like I really do have stuff I can offer them to be supportive of them. But when families want like a quick fix that I can't actually give them, then I just kind of feel like I wasted my time, you know.
But obviously you are a necessary part of the team, right? Or else this wouldn't be a role. And like although it may seem like more of the just financial aspect, obviously that is something that is very beneficial to the families who have adopted, and it is an important aspect.
It is, and what's interesting is we're what's known as a specialty team, because like you have to have certain credentials and stuff like that, and not a ton of workers get to be in this position. But part of the issue with that is, like, sometimes I don't have anything to do. And that really bugs me because as a caseworker, you're so used to, like, running around everywhere all the time. But, like, also then my coworkers think that I don't do anything. And so that gets to be a little frustrating. And I joke about, like, having nothing to do all the time. And sometimes I'm really busy and sometimes I'm not. But then a lot of workers get really frustrated with positions like mine, and there's even consideration at the state level of removing these positions just because, like, they're not doing anything, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of it is also the lack of organization within this position, and just, like, there are a lot of things we could be doing, but it's not really laid out what we should be doing.
So kind of a lack of communication, but like interdepartment-wise.
Right, as well as just like the setup for this position.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can have a million families call me one week and I'm crazy busy, and then the next week no one will call me, no one will talk to me, and then I'm sitting here twiddling my thumbs.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
It can be really hard to go from like one end of the spectrum to another. And like obviously people will say things about that, and that can be very frustrating.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it's like in a joking way, but like some seriousness to it. So then I'm kind of like
showing like the joke, it has to start from some small part of their truth. Yeah.
Right.
That can be really difficult. So are they doing anything to help with the organization, or?
No, I mean, I just got a new supervisor, which has also been a huge change for me.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I've had a lot of supervisors in the past few years, which is always stressful and frustrating. I think this one's a little bit different because it was previously me switching to other supervisors as opposed to new supervisors coming in. But also like being on the same clinical level as those.
Yeah.
Like options that were available for the supervisor position is kind of frustrating because in some ways like my supervisor before was just brilliant and I learned a ton from him, whereas like I have had my education longer than my new supervisor.
Yeah.
Which is awkward to talk about. But so in some ways it's kind of that like, well, why should I listen to you?
Yeah.
You know?
Feeling a little bit of imbalance kind of like within yourself.
Like I feel like I know more than you sometimes. Like, you know.
And it's hard with each new supervisor. They expect different things from you.
Right.
You kind of put on the attitude that, you know, you kind of have to like at work, like we have to put on the mask that our supervisor really expects from us because they each want a different shape, really.
Right. And another piece is like, I don't know my job super well yet since I'm fairly new in it. And just having a new supervisor who also hasn't had experience in this field can be a little frustrating because neither of us know what we're doing to some extent.
So a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
Not very much organization. And then the supervisor who wasn't familiar with this specialty team or this post-adopt. Right. So, yeah, that sounds very difficult. And so along with this, so not only a supervisor change and a job change, but you also had to move.
Right.
And how was that?
That was and is still really tough for me because my whole family was down where I lived. And so moving up here, we moved to be closer to my husband's family, and they're a little crazy. So I don't know people in this area, and I don't have my family nearby. None of them are willing to travel up here to visit me, even though it's only like 30, 45 minutes. So it's been a big adjustment of a lot of just being by myself.
Yeah.
You know, and my husband still works down in Sandy, and so he works Saturdays and he works Friday nights and all that stuff. So like on the weekends especially, I'm just kind of home by myself with my kids, which is fun. But I mean, we used to go on weekends to activities all the time with my sisters and their kids and stuff, and now there's just this big disconnect in my family. And
it can be hard to go like the weekend not having an adult conversation.
Very much so. I'm like counting down the time. And especially like one kid's throwing a tantrum and then they settle down and the other one starts throwing a tantrum, and I'm like, I haven't had a break all week because I've been working, and now I'm dealing with little mini temper tantrums.
That can make you feel isolated.
Very much so. And just bored and tired and frustrated. And
so it's not just a career change, it's also like totally uprooting your home, like changing that, and then losing this time with your husband and being further away from family, which can be difficult too. So it sounds like a lot of difficult change all at once.
Yeah, and it has been really difficult. And another piece that adds to the difficulty is we moved into a manufactured home, aka a trailer home.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've had a stigma about trailer homes for a long time, and it's like I didn't want to live in I don't want to move into a
Yeah.
trailer park, you know. The ones I go to for this job aren't good trailer parks,
Yeah.
you know. Which the one we live in is actually really nice, and our trailer is really nice. But that's a big part of why my family won't visit me, is because they see trailers as being trashy and ghetto, and so they don't want their kids to be around that, or they don't want to go around that ghetto-ness.
That can be hurtful.
Yeah. So I feel like it not only did it create like a physical distance between us, but also just an emotional distance.
Mm-hmm. So what are you doing to kind of cope with all this change? Like, what do you have any really just self-care or anything that, like, obviously you're going to therapy, which is the big step, but
Right.
what are some things that you feel like can help you?
I've started exercising more, which
Mhm.
is nice, because when I'm just angry and frustrated, like, I just go as hard as I can, and then I'm just too tired to be angry anymore.
That's good. That's all.
But my husband's also just a really awesome support for me. He deals with my craziness and my breakdowns and all that stuff, and he's just a great support. And the people in this office have been really great and fun
That's
to
good.
adjust to.
So there's positives throughout all these changes.
Yeah, it's been hard to see them sometimes, and some days I'm just like, I don't know why we're up here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done with this. But I think for the most part, like, things have turned out good in a lot of different ways. It's just,
That's really good that you recognize that. And I think it's awesome that you still have some positive thoughts on these changes, as even though they're so difficult as change is. And so we will have to finish. But thank you for coming in, and I'll see you next week.
okay, thank you.